Good evening, Free Enterprise viewers, and welcome to tonight's instance of the Community Club Showcase featuring the Pink Puff League. My name is Eskridge. Joining me in the restream today are Nyobari, handling the restream, and Dave pushing the buttons, and joining me in the comms booth today is Deadleg. How you doing tonight?
Doing well. I'm seeing a forum start, so that's always a exciting endeavor because A, I love forum, and B, you have your white mage problem solved immediately. So there's always a start.
Yeah, you should be especially happy because tonight Horum is the hero of the sea. This is a flag set intended to teach the Pink Puffs, our newer and less experienced runners, about the sea hero flag, meaning that, among other things, Horum will always be your agility anchor. The result you get from forging will always be a weapon that Horum can wield, and Horum will need to confront the fight on the Materbiel's mirror room by herself, should it come to that. So it'll be a bit of an interesting experience all around, mainly in my view due to the agility situation. With Horum as the hero, it's a little bit more manageable than you might get with some of the other possible hero characters, but still an interesting time.
Yeah, and from the objectives, we have a lot of convenient stuff like Liberate Baron Castle and going for the Odin throne in Baron Basement. So I see a lot of this effectively K-summon objectives. Defeat Queen at Town of Monsters. So we're going kind of have our hands full with a lot of different things.
Yeah, we'll be on the lookout for that Baron Key, which gates 2 objectives. We'll be on the lookout for the Hook, which gates at least 2 objectives, and possibly 3 if the Hook is a means of underground access. Other than that, we will need the Darkness Crystal to get up to the moon. We will need the Pink Tail to hit away, of course, and we will need the Twin Heart for everyone's favorite check, Cape Magnes. Notably, we only need to do 4 of these 7 checks, so we will be looking for those big win key items that will be able to get us multiples of those checks out of the way, like that Baron Key and that Hook.
Yeah, don't think. It'd be nice if the Baron Key shows up early, and runners will have a decent opportunity to pick up the few things. Although doing the Baron Basement is a little bit tricky. It's fast spot with a decent amount of magic power. That HP is okay, but it's usually a particularly dangerous spot. Though I think what would really help for this seed is if a certain other twin Palom shows up, this will inevitably make the Palom Pearl combo pretty powerful pretty early, as twin magic has the potential of having has 2 options: Comet, which is better than any elemental, non-elemental, unblockable, unreflectable spell, and Flare, which is effectively virus light spread between MP consumption for both twins, and that is which oftentimes will you'll see like a Rosa being ditched for just a for even though right today we have Porum as the hero, but these it's one of those things that runners think about when they're looking at their starting party, and we have a Vanilla Kain.
Yeah, so we're underway. We've got Porum Kain. We've got an Earth Crystal as a starting key item. That is a very nice find early on. Of course, the Earth Crystal not only lets us into the Troya Treasury with its 18 chests of goodies, but also will eventually let us go up Zot for 2 character checks and 2 bosses, in addition to the key item check. And for those reasons, it is often referred to as the Party Rock in the community.
I hadn't taken a look at the seed, but if if the Troya Treasury, obviously Troya Treasury and the Open Treasury will probably be the first to go, especially if if Bedward has a key item. That's also something to look forward to pick up. If not, Demist Hunt always a favorite for our runners, because everyone loves finding Demist.
Yeah, well, sure enough, Takamil is immediately headed into Troy Castle and immediately makes for the Treasury to play one of our viewers' favorite games, Rate That Treasury. We're finding a lot of nice things in here. That Avenger, that Power Shirt, that Zeus Gauntlet. This is a very Kane start out of 10 Treasury that we've got going here. Meanwhile, Subbox Gamer, remembering that free characters are on, has headed into Watery Pass to do some initial looting and pick up Tala. Very good utility character. Not the anchor that we were hoping for into the hero flag, but we'll still make for some very versatile spell casting early in the seed, or possibly even later in the seed.
Yeah, still has a lot of value as a utility mage. Well, obviously not going to be the anchor, but I kind of, especially when you're looting this early, having Tala available make for a wonderful time spent. You loot fast. That's kind of the value. But honestly, from this treasury, that's like, I would say it's almost like a perfect 10 out of 10. You get everything you really wanted out of a treasury, even gear for Porum, like for mages. I mean, this kind of hard to ask less of a treasury than what we've just saw there.
Yeah, Soapbox has also pulled a Charm Rod out of the Damsian Basin, which is another nice find. We'll pair nicely with that Tela, or should we happen to find that early Palom that we're hoping for, then it'll make a nice addition for him as well. Soapbox Gamer has reached the top of Damsian's Luncheon Havercraft and finds another Vanilla Edward at the top of Damsian Castle.
Having the Edward is interesting. I mean, there might be there will be situations, especially with this currently team of mages we mostly have. Well, okay, Kane being not a mage. Okay, that's fine. We'll not change the narrative too much.
What do you mean you don't want to give Kane MP?
Oh yeah, sure. We'll give him MP. We can give him a spear that a lot of his spears does actually have some magic, like Blizzard Spear, Flame Spear, White Spear. I guess he's a mage. It's hard to. The MP will surely go to great use.
Okay, Soapbox is now also headed down to the treasury here. We'll be finding all of that lovely Kane gear, and Takamil is also in Damsian. We'll be finding that Edward will be launching the Hovercraft shortly as well. So we've got a lot of early game power at this point. Some of our runners might be inclined to continue looking for characters at this point. Some of them might just want to go and do some more checks immediately. We've certainly got the power on that Kane to be able to take most of the overworld, the early game should we so choose.
I still think probably looking for another character. If you can spike a Cecil or Palom, that would be kind of mostly done. I mean, well, not just filling out all the spots, but kind of ensuring what the team focus will be. Right now, it's looking to be still a little more mage heavy, as Edward, without a spoon, is he'll contribute, but not as much as we'd like, at least not quite yet.
Something that I've come around to relatively recently, personally in my own play, is if you have a relatively powerful character early on, most notably Edge, but this Kane certainly qualifies for that right now. You don't always want to fill out your party early because you don't want to have to wait for that character to go around taking turns. Go through your other characters to take turns, of course. That's less relevant with Kane having the Avenger in hand, of course, but there's also cases like finding an early Golbez or something where having fewer party members is an advantage.
I think it makes sense if you have a good starting character. Although I think Kane, Avenger does solve a lot of things, but when you do Avenger and Golbez, those are a lot of wasted turns. So the
Avenger doesn't solve everything, and Golbez is certainly one of those things. Soapbox Gamer peaks Mist Cave. We do have the KO free flag on for this flag set, meaning we are looking for Demas, and that Baigan is not Demas. Takamel, meanwhile, is heading up Mount Hobbs, both with a character check and to see who the boss is, presumably. I would say this is more a character check, although missing a demist on Hobbs is something which has been known to happen in cases where we don't have the free characters here. That's Rydia, and that's some form of Mylon sitting on top of Hobbs. Takamel decides he doesn't want to deal with either of those, while Soapbox Gamer is now headed into Antlion Cave.
Well, I mean, the trick on Hobbs. Well, I mean, seeing what that was there, is like it was like probably looking for the reset button. Like, do I want it? Yep. Do I not? And I mean, Rydia, right? Like, you could probably try to pick up the free character, but then you have to guarantee that boss fight. And well, having dupe Hela doesn't sound. And dupe Edward. Oh, and we found Blarg. Oh, that's exciting.
This fight will be over before Blarg comes out. Yeah, so you can't just swing twice and it's over. That is a very good Wyvern to have out of the way. You don't want to have to deal with Wyvern in spots where it can outspeed you and just completely annihilate your party before you get the chance to do everything. So remember how I was saying that we wanted to find that hook quite badly? There it is.
Well, there it is. Hook, there it is.
So that, in principle, puts 2 checks on the table, plus the third once we find the pink tail. As powerful as Kain is right now, we're probably not willing to try to take on the hook route quite yet. We still got some outstanding overworld checks, but it might be a play to do sooner rather than later.
I mean, with Atella, you're kind of incentivized to do mount ordeals to kind of do the Demist hunt, so that's probably going to be on the table anyways, but also want to get Porum to Berserk. I think it's like level 18, and that's kind of the magic spell level 2. I mean, yeah, we already have Kain Berserked, but if there's a need for a second Zerker we haven't found yet, that Zerk will come in handy right now. The freezer, the couple levels later, I think it was like 22 or something, Blink is also on the table. I mean, Hela already has it, but 2 Blink casters also very, very powerful early game.
Something I want to call out here, Takamel did find a curse ring in the shop in Mysidia, which will be very, very handy to have when we're in the market for agility manipulation for a hero. And there's our early Palom. So we're ready for basically anything the overworld can throw at us at this point on Takamel side.
Yep. I think the only probably issue, I think at least that's left on the table, would be where is Val? And Kain probably might be able to take on Val. Although right now I'm staring at Taco and having the sharp object in the non-dominant hand, which is a damage as attack power decrease. It's like 80% is effective, so that is a 20% loss of damage. So not though, bow and arrows are really focused on taking advantage of weaknesses, so it's probably not going to matter too much. But
yeah, the pointy thing generally goes in your dominant hand here. So Soapbox Gamer, interestingly enough, is headed into Cave Evelyn immediately. This may just be a shop and character check, or it might signal an intent to attempt to take the hook route sooner rather than later, depending on who the boss we see here is. Meanwhile, speaking of bosses and speaking of the hook route, here's King Queen Evelyn in Ordeals 1. Not ideal to find here. The fight's free. You want to save these free fights for later on in the seed if possible, so finding this early is not a nice thing. And the Cave Evelyn shop today has hourglasses and sirens. The hourglasses will be very nice if you want to check Castle Evelyn for loot. The sirens, of course, are very nice to have for grinding purposes.
I think with having the the kind of bountiful, generous treasury, I don't kind of less incentivized to do Evelyn. Outside of, if you're doing Evelyn, it's probably just for the XP, right? There isn't much you really want outside of maybe hitting a Crystal Sword Excalibur or something for a Cecil that isn't at this point we hadn't even seen yet in the seed. So right, there isn't much in the way of boost in power that Evelyn can give that the treasury hasn't already provided. And speaking of the man himself, he showed up.
Yeah, okay, so we've got Octomammoth in Ordeals 2, which has already been defeated thanks to the power of Kain. and that adventure, and that's Atlion as the second boss on Hook Road. It's I don't think we're going to be dealing with that Atlion right away, although it's technically doable, but it's not something you want to be doing right now. I don't think.
I mean, the quickest way of making Antlion less of a problem is getting Hallam to wake, at least Virus. That will save a lot of time. I mean, the kind of issue that you have with the Antlion, mostly due part with the Avenger, as any physical attack made on the Antlion will cause a counterattack. That counterattack, while not strong, is a very nuisance and will kind of slow things down a bit. So it's not too difficult to hill. It's more of how we're gonna get it, and you can and most likely they'll probably be a little hybrid. You know, just let Avenger Kane or Avenger Cecil punch, get Quake down or Virus, and you know that should be more than enough. You don't need just and letting Porum and Pella, you know, providing blink and healing. So there isn't too much to do there.
Okay, so for that Ordeals trip on Taco's side, we got the package from our key item from that check, and Forum is left to deal with the dolls all by herself. And despite using that lit ball to clear out most of the dolls, 2 of them survived, and now we have the big doll to deal with.
I mean, from Soapbox, who has found hourglasses, would probably actually have an advantage. Talk about got a little.
Oh no, this isn't going well. Oh no, it's over. Fortunately, I believe Taco did say after the Octomammoth fight, so we'll have another opportunity to gear up for this properly, and we'll be better prepared for the surprise that awaits.
It's kind of difficult sometimes as a mage when you, especially a white mage, you're effectively relying on strict offensive J items to do the work. And while the HP at the spot is not that high, I think it's 1,000. Split over in the Calbrana sense, there's 7 HP pools. The big doll having the most might be worth just taking some time to, you know, hit all the Calbrana in the back first with the bow and arrow, and then use the J item. That way, even if they don't die from the initial arrow shot, they will be finished off by the J item that's being used. So that would be something to do. But the big doll requires a little bit finesse to kind of take care of, mostly brute force. And when with, you know, even with like a samurai bow, getting the initial charm is very devastating. So there must have been a headband picked up on this trip to Ordeals last I checked. So that would mitigate the issue, and decided to find it.
Yeah, there's the headband. One of the niche uses of the headband is this exact purpose, is preventing your characters from getting charmed like this. So this should be less sticky should Takuma choose to attempt to pick the big doll again. Meanwhile, Soapbox is also on Ordeals, is gearing up for these initial few fights. We do see some we see that crystal ring going on for him in the center slot there, which is an attempt, I think, to outspeed these bosses to some extent. It's completely unnecessary for King Queen Evelyn here, of course, but will be something nice to have for the doll spot, I think.
Yeah, Crystal Ring is effectively a better version of the headband. It's one of the top tier rings. I mean, and it provides the charm protection and paralysis, so which is perfect for Golbez fights, and also protects against sleep, which don't think will show up too much. You know, sometimes some Blarg versions will do some sleep, but for the most part, you know, Crystal Ring has a lot of protection, not just dragon protection, but essentially uncontrollable status protection, and that is a pretty valuable, especially early game.
This is interesting. Taco is picking off the back dolls here. May have been intending to use the item to finish off the front dolls there, as we saw in the first attempt, but it's too late for that now. We've got a big doll to deal with again. This should go a lot better this time around with having that headband equipped, I think.
Well, I mean, the headband will essentially give back a turn or two, effectively 2 turns.
Yeah.
One that gets lost from charm, and one would be consumed because of the charm itself. So it's a
Yeah.
So that's always useful. So yep, there it goes.
Yeah, there we go. Talking about is through the big doll fight. Tella is now online, and when Taco finds that Cecil, he will immediately be a paladin. This makes me wonder if I mean, Soapbox is obviously here because of Tella and because of Cecil, mainly because of that Cecil probably, but we have the guy. This makes it more likely that we see an Evelyn check or something in order to get the stick to go with him.
Yeah, there will definitely be a character replacement on Taco Bell when Cecil's found. The question, I think Edward's still on that team, so that will be the first yeet. I think. I'm not.
Yeah.
So that's unless you're kind of cute and maybe gamble removing the Tella though, because at some point, I mean, well, having Tella is useful, but you have the Palom, and up to a point, Palom will learn Warp, and Horum learns Exit pretty early, like level 19. So a lot of Tella's functionality starts to disappear with when both twins are around 23 or so. So Tella could be the first to go, and we'll find out who. At least it's not all Gauntlet.
Yeah, okay. As a tracker is speculating in chat, Soapbox Gamer did use that Lip Bolt to much better effect than Taco Milk did because of the extra levels from the additional checks that Soapbox has done at that point. That is enough for Paladin to just wipe out the dolls with 1 Lip Bolt. And we do see on Taco Milk's side, Taco Milk was in Barret and we saw a single blue robe, which in that spot means it is exactly Water Hag. Water Hag is one of those bosses where Water Hag is a relatively free fight. You hit it 3 times and then the fight ends. So again, not something you want to be seeing this early in the seed, if at all possible.
Yeah, it's one of the things when you see free bosses in kind of weaker spots, it's not what you want to see. But that also means, for the viewers, hey, how about something more difficult? And that's like quarter leg? That's quarter leg, unfortunately.
I mean, the other part about Water Hag in that spot specifically is normally you can defeat that boss in 1 pretty strong enough hit. Water Hag always requires the 3 hits, unless in its free boss form. But yeah, that's Avenger Kane at work. 2 or 3 slings is enough to get through that element to get the second half of the fight, and we get a tower key for our troubles. So we're still looking for that Magma Key, and I suspect that there's a chance that it'll be either in Fabul or behind something in Fabul at this point.
Yeah, Taco hasn't actually visited Antlion, and we know the Antlion spot has the hook, so eventually stumble upon it. Probably some runners like to fade Fabul, at least hoping that they pick up the hook and the pen before, so that you could just visit Fabul once. But I'm on for like the averages where you're gonna visit twice and you're just gonna like it, and I'm there for it. But right now, I see it's a plague at Fabul, so that's it'll go away pretty quickly.
Yeah, I'm normally the sort of person who will fade an early Fabul like this, especially if I've got a hook in hand already. Soapbox obviously is not. Part of this, of course, is that we know that the underground access we're looking for is that Magma Key. We're hoping we find it here and not the Earth Crystal or something else that might be gated behind one of these items. Just because it'll be that much faster.
I mean, it'll be faster, but I think you're kind of incentivized in terms of the objective list to actually do the hook route. I mean, that showed up. Speak of the key item. It's there.
Yeah, turns out I was right for once. We can unironically get underground now. Not that we couldn't before, but that's our the magma key in this flag set is our intended logical underground access.
So that also, hey, say hello to Inventory Boss. So Box Gamer finding out, hey, hoarding all the items will make you want to have to ditch some of them at some point. So that's the time. So make sure to clean out your inventory as quickly as possible, and especially when you actually have to face the inventory boss, dump as much as you possibly can, because second viewing, more time wasted.
Yeah, like as much as as much as we want to get all of that delicious T Wildish loot here, it turns out that inventory management is actually a relatively difficult skill to keep on top of. Just because it's very easy to lose track of how much inventory space you've got, what you actually need to keep on hand, what you need to get rid of at any point in time, and just go along with that.
Okay, talk about. We'll see that and laugh at it because Avenger Kane, yeah, one shot, one kill. So that's no worries there.
Okay. Well, talk about we'll be getting the hook in just a few moments. I wonder if we will be seeing a hook right check here, or if talking about will instead go to one of the other outstanding overworld checks in pursuit of that magma key. I wouldn't be surprised if talking about goes directly to Fabul from here.
It's in the neighborhood, so might as well. It's not that far. From a difficulty standpoint, the follow-up would be just doing Earth Crystal immediately, because hoping try to get the Baron Key from the Val spot after completion of the tower. So, but of course that requires quite a bit of luck. It still could happen because vanilla happen. No, it's not quite vanilla, but no, it might as well. It'll land you in Baron, and if it works out that way, that it works out very well in terms of routing, but requires a boatload of luck to make that happen.
Yeah, just to actually voice a response to a question from chat. Well, sort of a question from chat. The question being, was the treasury halfway decent with the relative lack of looting here we're seeing? Well, yes, it was. We've got the Avenger of the Power shirt and the Zeus Gauntlet to go on that cane. And in fact, Taco Melt, checking the Fabula shop here, also just found a Dwarf Axe. The significance of which is that it is the weapon that you give to Kane in order to put him to enable the back row weapon flag for him, which due to what we call the back row glitch never turns off. So with Kane having equipped that for the briefest of moments, he can now deal full damage from the back row for the rest of the seed.
It's probably the penultimate glitch item for him, as that is the only weapon he actually has access to for that. So it can be used on other characters, but for Cade, it's his only option. So that's just why when they have the glitch enabled, people explicitly look for that item.
Yeah, like for most characters that you can put in the back row, the usual way to do that is via bows. That Dwarf Axe can also be equipped by Cecil and Sid, both who can equip bows. Edge has the boomerang on the full moon, which can enable that. But any other character who's likely to be hitting and berserking will have difficulty with that. And I'm specifically calling out Yang, who can only be backward glitched under extremely specific circumstances involving another glitch with Edge.
I think for Edge, though, the boomerangs, you do want to equip it on the right hand. Left hand,
yeah,
does not apply. That itself is its own bug.
Yep.
This game is well coded. As everyone knows.
Okay, so with Taco Melt through Fabul as well, we've now got dueling magma key drops on screen here, and kind of interesting how we had the divergence in routes so far. Notably, Taco Melt hasn't actually looked at anything on the hook road yet, and does not have that Cecil. But otherwise, we're seeing a sync up here.
It could be. I think it could be in Soapbox's favor, because the Cecil will have a lot more value than the replacement in Taco Melt. Forget who Edward was placed by. It's just the lack of the missing Cecil will kind of kind of pay dividends in Soapbox's favor, at least time-wise. So but if Takamot decides, hey, I really want to do, I want to do getting the objective, that will kind of stumble onto the Cecil that would probably make a difference. So it's kind of one of those, do I really want to do Hook Seed or not?
Yeah, and despite that moment of convergence, we now back to divergence again. Soapbox Saber has landed outside of Will Castle and is now headed in, probably on the intent of checking those trap chests, maybe both for experience and for looking for a weapon for Cecil. Takamot, meanwhile, has headed underground and is currently in Tomra, I believe, looking at the shops there.
Yeah, I'm probably trying to find some decent tier 5 items to buy. We do know where the Hourglass and Sirens are, which Takamot is probably looking for, at least the Sirens. So we know it probably won't be here. What might find other things like, say, Bacchus wine, or so that which is just as useful, but although not as useful at the moment because we have white mages and an Avengers sword, at least. So kind of not in the same need category. The Soapbox gamer might benefit more from.
Yeah, well, we in the booth here know that Tomra can't have sirens because we saw those in the Cave Evelyn shop. Takamot, of course, doesn't know that, but did find coffins for his trouble in that shop. And Soapbox has found the first trap chest in Evelyn Castle. It is the Staleman and Four Skulls chest.
Yeah, this it's not too difficult to fight. Typically, the real issue is really when the skulls afflict curse, and which reduces the defense of a character by half, which makes them very vulnerable. Though they're still pretty easy to take care of, and I think I just missed the key.
So Takamot found the Adamant Rock as the key item in the Feymarch, which I guess we can consider it a form of French vanilla, because that's ultimately what you get from the Feymarch freebie here. It's just, we're skipping a step along the way. And we find Bacchus wine in the Feymarch shop, so that's with the potential for having the Cecil with the biggest of sticks, that's a very nice thing to have here. Of course, Takamot doesn't know where Cecil is yet. We do, but it's... I think we can say for sure that Soapbox Gamer will be very happy to find that once he gets done with the Feymarch. Taco is saving. We'll probably be peeking the bosses here because, again, the Queen spot here is an objective. And speaking of big sticks, that's a crystal sword that Soapbox Gamer has just pulled from Evelyn Castle. So that's going on Cecil almost immediately, and that's exactly what Soapbox is here looking for. We see the exit out.
It's a pretty reasonable gamble to looking for a holy sword. I mean, Evelyn has been pretty known to do that, and we see that's funny. That's guards and more guards in the Feymarch here. With those coffins in hand, this fight is basically completely free. We've been talking about you want to see free bosses in late spots, and this is exactly the sort of thing we're talking about. Yeah, that's kind of fortunate, and we only really need the Queen spot as for the objective. Really doesn't matter which one we get. I think for the runners, they would prefer the Queen spot, Baron guards. On the King spot, they would get the soldier guards. And hey,
Which is what we're
speaking
here.
because that's the commentator's curse, or was it commentator's blessing? It's one or the other. Doesn't make a difference. This is perfect. Probably doesn't really matter if it doesn't get the XP as she is more dependent on her summons, and we don't think we've picked up anything for her yet, unfortunately.
We do have a Sylph orb from somewhere, which I think it may have only been Soapbox that found that, or I might be misremembering. But that's the pink tail from the Queen of Monsters spot, the Ashura spot. So that's double required, because the pink tail, of course, is itself an objective unto itself.
Hey, you just do your objectives. Sometimes more objectives will come your way, so that's very fortunate. Taco's probably going to take on the other one as well, which is just as free. It's arguably even more free, because if the Baron guards were in the king spot, that would be a lot more painful. Doable, but much more difficult to take on. The Azure spot, much easier to take on because Azure has been balanced, whereas Leviathan spot, not known to punch and therefore not balanced and really, really powerful at that spot typically.
Yeah, okay. Well, Takamon has circled back and is taking on these guards now. The coffin comes out. The guards will get the opportunity to punch, and Palom is starting coffin, takes a hit but lives. So of course, you only need to defeat the officer here, because the remaining soldiers will be thrown into confusion by the lack of their commanding officer, I guess. Soapbox Gamer has looked at the shops in Dwarf Castle. If there was anything there of importance, I did not see it.
Yeah, usually, even though we do have a pretty good idea, we do see a lot of shop tech in the underground just for the looking for essentially the complete set of tier 5 items. So it makes sense to try to look for probably at least in Soapbox probably wants something useful. But hey, Taco Melt didn't need to trek to Evelyn, got the crystal sword, though does not have the stasis, so that, while different but not not dire. And we find the Val.
Yeah. So about finding that Val, here she is in Dwarf Castle. I guess we're going to be seeing in just a few moments if Kane can do enough damage here. Not that that matters because we've got Cecil able to do the damage here as well now. So this fight will be relatively painless with the heavy hitters in the party here right now.
I wouldn't say it's entirely painless. This spot does punch pretty hard. It's what the stats used primarily are from the big Calbrina doll, and that has a kind of a more devastating punch than you'd think it would be. So it's not entirely trivial. Not especially, and with this spot also having actually decent spell power, so kind of underrated. And many runners in other races kind of try to fade this because the first spot is usually more terrifying, and sometimes this spot is more not as interesting as say the Baron Inn, where you have two different boss fights back to back, and this is the kind of the harder of the two variants.
Okay, I've had the opportunity to get a better look at the shops in Dwarf now that Takamata is going through them. There were elixirs in the item shop, charm rods and silent staves in the weapon shop. Takamata took the opportunity to buy a charm rod, and that's a mom bomb in the second Dwarf spot here. You hate to see it, but you love to see that foo there in principle. Goodbye, Rydia, I guess. So the thing with mom bomb, of course, is that there's the scripted event partly through the vanilla fight where once Mom Bomb has taken enough damage that will explode and split into 6 smaller bombs, which effectively adds 10,000 health to the spot. You can chip your way through it if you've got enough damage output, which we just might see here, but otherwise it tends to extend the fight out more in spots that normally don't take very long, such as this Dwarf 2 spot.
Kind of wanted to mention, well, Twin Command might be useful, but I think it's a little bit not as effective because Porom is the hero. So and Porom naturally gains a little bit more agility than Palom, which consequently makes then Twin selects the twin to determine the wisdom value, and the quicker twin, which is unfortunately Porom, is the one that gets picked. So over time, Twin Command is less effective as Porom becomes faster. So than her brother. So right now. So Twin is at this point for for Soapbox Gamer and Taco Melt. It's not on. It's gonna be kind of not an option over time.
Okay, so Sobok Savior is through that fight, uses Fusoya to perform the warp glitch, head back into the room, and go into the room, which is normally at the end of Sealed Cave, to grab exactly the Baron key. So hopefully Takuma will also remember to do that with either this Tela or the Fusoya that he's going to pick up. Or I don't know if Palom here has enough levels to get warp, or if Fu on Takuma's side will have enough levels to get warp, because that is effectively go mode. We've just opened up 2 more objectives in Soapbox Saber's side, and we already have access to 2 others. So that's enough to get us over the 4 objective mark.
I'm just happy the warp glitch made this more of a jet seed than you'd normally expect. That usually doesn't. It doesn't usually work out this way, but it's quite nice. And that protector ring, well, not critical, but hey, kind of a top tier rings. Like not this. It's different from the crystal ring in that this is all for elemental protection, and there are some bosses that like their elemental ability. So always a good pickup.
Yeah, so it's being pointed out in chat, as I intended to allude to with my saying that's effectively go mode. That yes, in order to actually be an actual go mode here, Soapbox Saber will still need to fight either the pass or the Darkness Crystal in order to get access to the Zeromus fight. But Soapbox is now in a position to complete all of the objectives that he needs to finish the seed and get the crystal. Just needs that Zeromus access now.
It's pretty likely when we get the 4th objective that we'll have up the item that will kind of dictate where to go. So I think it's just a matter of time. Worst case scenario, you're just gonna just do a darkness. You're gonna have to find the darkness crystal. So right now, you're probably gonna, from just based on the objectives, you're just gonna stumble onto it. And
yeah, so I'll point out Takuma did take that Fusoya. We don't know if Fusoya has warp on Takuma's side or not. I don't know, but it's just as well because Palom actually learned warp from that fight, getting just enough experience to do so. So Takuma is also in a position to perform that warp glitch. Hopefully remembers to do so because we know that Baron key is what's on the other side of it.
I think most of them have tracked up Mount Ordeal, so warp should be on the table for Tela regardless. So this should.
Well, Taco just replaced that Tela with Fu, so whether or not Tela has it is no matter. But is using Palom to warp.
Well, I mean, Tela kind of outlived his using this because Fu is better Tela, for lack of a better term. So, and he's not going to be. We know our anchor is going to be Porm regardless. So, Tela's usefulness, old man. Gotta mop up the seed. That's what I say.
So interestingly enough, Sobok Chamber is headed up the Tower of Babel here. Considering that Sobok is in Goma, this is a kind of an interesting choice for me. You do get the 2 key item checks here, but you also get the 2 key item checks from going up to Baron at this point, and Baron itself is also 2 objectives.
Maybe just trying to gamble for maybe the darkness being here. It's an interesting decision because it's not something I don't believe something we have to do. So it's maybe it's just a gamble. If Soapbox stumbles onto a pass or the darkness crystal, then Soapbox would be more in the driver's seat. So I think right now we have to we'll have to find out what rewards, what key items are going to be kind of reaped from completing these things, which seems a little strange. It's out of the way, not necessary, but two key item opportunities, might as well. It's kind of on the way out. So that's the only justification I think of right off the top of my head. It's like on the way out of the underground, might as well take a look before leaving.
Yeah, there's a question in chat asking if we've seen Demas yet, which we have not. That having been said, I still think that going to Baron if we're looking for exactly Demas, going to Baron would still make more sense to me right now. Taco Melt, while leaving the underground, took the opportunity to go into Silk Cave and set up the Sheila 1 check. Checking up on Yang in the underground unlocks a key item check by talking to Yang's wife, Sheila, in Fabul, which we are seeing right now. So we'll see if this has anything of importance. It's just an elixir, so no. But I think the signal's an intent for Takamel to go directly to Baron after this.
Takamel for this makes perfect sense. It's just on your way out of the underground. You don't have the pen, unfortunately, but you might as well, not try to, turn turn out every stone, turn over just to find, see if darkness is there. Sometimes, Sheila has had the goods before plenty of times, so not a bad gamble, and didn't pay out, but something, sometimes if you do a check that another one doesn't, you may be the beneficiary of that gamble. So not the worst of gambles. I think didn't pay out, but definitely worth checking.
Yeah. Okay, Soapbox Gamer is at the top of tower now and finds a variety of Mylon. Looks like in this case it is Mylon and Friends, aka DJ Mylon's Electric Dance Party, meaning that the other Mylon we saw on Mount Haas, which we're probably not going back to at this point, is Mylon Z. It is expected Taco Bell is just outside Baron at this point, and will be preparing to head down the Baron route in the old waterway, the sewers, whatever you want to call them, in just a few moments as well.
Yeah, that's probably we should be seeing less loot being done. I think we're still looting a little bit here, but that's fine. But that's all right. Just maybe sometimes people loot for more gear when they're not as comfortable to go there in game with. Sometimes you want getting a sorcerer, while empowering characters or mages, but also giving them the kind of magic evasion that is required to survive a big bang. And those usually are terrifying hits. So I could in a lot of runners sometimes look in that direction, but when you're more experienced, you're probably gonna not look for more treasure chests and just gain the levels, or just hope the damage you're gonna get kind of skip most of it, hopefully.
Yeah, there's a variety of ways you can set up your party in order to just minimize the amount of danger that you're facing in Zero Miss. With that Crystal Sword Cecil, we're probably going to see our runners make the most use of him, assuming Talking About picks up that Cecil at some point, or maybe he finds another Cecil somewhere else. Baron is a character check, maybe that's who we'll see here. But Talking About is to the Bygin spot and rediscovers, if you will, the Magus sisters in this spot. This fight will not go on for very long.
All you need is Quake Kid. Quake Kid solves everything about the Magus sisters. Bygin. Not so much CPU. But Quake Kid has a solution for a lot of things, and Magus sisters are the top of that kid's list, and I totally love it.
Yeah, if CPU is a problem with Quake, then you're not using enough Quake in my view. But that's beside the point.
CPU needs more rocks. That's what it is.
Yeah, that too. Talking About is approaching the Baron throne. Finds Dr. Luge has taken over Baron today. This is a relatively easy fight, but it's also going to be on the slower side of things. Meanwhile, Soapbox Gamer grabs the rat tail from the super cannon room turn-in. So we'll get another key item check into that, or more, I like to think of this as we don't yet know exactly which key item we got from that tower, because we need to turn to the rat tail to find out. Soapbox is checking the Tomber shops now, finds those coffins, so presumably on his trip down into the Fey March, we'll be very happy to see those guards there as well.
Coffins, I don't buy a lot of them, but I always find that they're always, for certain bosses, that do not have the boss bit, or some trapped chests that typically are usually perfect places to use a coffin. So the value of a coffin can't be understated. Probably not by too many, but just by enough to think you'll just kind of speed up a few fights. So
they're very nice to have for those free bosses. They're nice to have for getting some particularly sticky types of grinds started, like maybe using a coffin on an egg or even a gold dragon at some point. But Soapbox Gamer is in the Fey March now as well, is finding those Bacchus wines. So I'll no doubt be buying a sack of those Bacchus wines to go with the guy and the stick, so to speak. Talk About is through the Luge fight and finds an edge in Baron Castle, and chooses not to take the edge, but does take his equipment, probably meaning for that black belt. This is not exactly surprising to me, because while edge is Edge is a very powerful early game character, especially with his vanilla equipment, but later on in the seed, and I think we've passed that point by now, Edge is very equipment dependent, and we have not found any of that equipment for this Edge right now.
Yeah, it yeah, equipment. That is pretty much the whole stick with Edge. It's do you have enough Hanzo Steel? Yes, no. That's your those. That's all you need to know. Early on, you can probably get away with it, but mid to late game, you don't have it. You're gonna have to go out of way to buy it, and usually it's then not worth your time. And Ruby, well, it might be sad Ruby because probably not checking for that character. Although, not going for the basement yet because probably due to levels. Though, I thought Takamel just picked up Nuke on the Fu, so which would usually be enough, but oh no, nope. Taco really wants to check the character, maybe looking for a Cecil because I see that because that crystal sword that was picked up earlier was a burning hole, but no, that's a karate man, unfortunately.
Yeah, so this makes me wonder if character checks are on Takamel's mind. Will we see a hook road check at this point? We've got the Baron basement thrown open to us right now as well, which it's interesting that Taco opted not to check that immediately. Maybe he did not feel quite up to doing that. We do see Taco landing outside Mist Village. We've got the package in hand. This is probably for the character check, which is just Sid as well. So I'd say there's a reasonably good chance that Taco is going to go and check who the hook road characters at this point.
Yeah, probably not. I mean, I mean the character set is pretty much endgame worthy. I mean, just use Kane not equipped with the Avenger to kind of hold down the fort and let everyone else do the spells. Although that in itself requires more levels, so that might be something. But Takamel's decided, oh yeah, there's this Odin guy, the Odin spot in the basement that we kind of want to do. So probably wanted to get the character check early though.
Yeah. It is an objective and all, and I do find it interesting that Taco, who is apparently looking for additional characters, probably looking for exactly that Cecil is on Hook Road, would not go and check the Hook Road spot at this point in time. Maybe he wants to save that for later once he knows that he's got a party that's going to be capable of taking on that Hook Road, which we're pretty much at the point now where this party could do that with relatively little difficulty. But I guess while we're up here, we might as well get this out of the way. So let's see who our boss is here. That is an alt gauntlet, because we saw Water Hag earlier. That's not something you want to deal with if you can possibly avoid it. Which is just as well because Takamelt has 3 other objectives available. Well, it has already done 2 objectives, has 2 more objectives immediately available, those being exactly the hook route and turning in the pink tail. So with this hovercraft in hand, we're going to see the pink tail turned in relatively soon, I think, if not immediately. But no, Takamel is going to Cave Evelyn first.
This is actually what Takamel needs. So we know that the alt gauntlets at Baron, that just means grind ahoy. And we'll stop on the Cecil, and then we'll effectively do the grind then and there. Now, well, probably be a little bit precarious spot to get Cecil grind in, but just bumped in, not the mini inventory boss shop owner won't let you buy things when you have a full inventory. So that is like that's like kind of like inventory boss hint. That's what it is. It's a mini. So anytime you don't have enough and it's always a good time to offer everything. Buying our classes at will. That's like, okay, don't care. Just give me.
Okay, well that was 20 sirens and 3 hourglasses, I believe, exactly as many as you can afford after buying 20 sirens. But Takamel is just skipping all of the loot along here and will very shortly be picking up his own Cecil. I think that Takamel is in a position here where he's just going to want to continue down the hook route, maybe taking the opportunity to open either the trap chest somewhere here or possibly the trap chest along the road just to get Cecil online enough to be able to take that the bosses along the route here.
I think probably just the ogre chest will be just enough. Look, it's going back to look for the Staleman chest in the Cape Evelyn's area is probably not the best use of time. Probably just if you just pick up the chest on the way, you'll probably stumble onto the trap chest anyways. And I think that was a Bahamut summon for a Raya that's probably not in either. probably not in either party. I know Taco just needing the right
Yeah, no
soapbox.
longer in any party, if you will. But yes, that's the Pigtail to the land Soapbox Gamer side, putting his second objective on the board. And with that Baron Key in hand, we'll now be headed into Baron Castle here. Now, notably, Soapbox Gamer is in a position to enter effective go mode here, barring Zeroma's access. So, since we do have the summon boss checks and the moon checks enabled here, it is possible that this Alt Gauntlet in the Baron Basement is going to give us one of the items we need in order to access Zeromus, whether that be the pass, technically not a key item that can show up in key item spots in this flag set, or the Darkness Crystal. Now, interestingly enough, Talking About has exited out of Cave Eblin here, and is taking the Hover Guide. This is the Pigtail turn in. Probably remembers that yes, we need to turn in the Pigtail here. So this makes me wonder if we're going to see him head back to Baron Castle and the Baron Basement before. He's not turning in the Pigtail immediately either. Okay, so with the Sirens in hand, he's just going to go and grind and get that Cecil online. So yeah, this is get Cecil online, turning the Pigtail, go to the hook route, and do the Baron Basement somewhere along the way.
I mean, it's second grind. That's the only way of looking at it. Like, if you're not gonna do the hook route, you are effectively saying, "I will do second grind. Do first grind now, with a few levels, and then go do Alt Gauntlet to do the second grind." That's so. I mean, I always look at Alt Gauntlet as the grind, and it, not the worst grind, especially when it is objective.
Okay, well, Soapbox Gamer is now at the Bygone spot in Baron Castle. We'll be fighting these Mega Sisters. We'll be demolishing them in short order here. We've got a food with Quake, and we've got a food with Nuke, and not to mention that Palom having Quake as well. So it's going to be through this fight relatively quickly. And I see Taco has apparently overheard me saying use coffins on eggs sometimes, because that's exactly what's going on over there. We see Cecil pick up 25 levels off the start. That might be enough for him to just warrant turning around and going to take whatever objective he wants to do next.
Which is probably the Alt Gauntlet. Oh, no. This is interesting. And Soapbox did this earlier, which is trying to probably look for the Darkness Crystal or Pass. That's the only reason. It's probably the quickest 2 key items to do the same thing. But
this is a little bit more justified in Taco's case, I think, because Taco does know that he has access to everything that he needs to complete the seed, except exactly Zeromus access. So this is a play to take the 2 key item checks as opposed to the 1 he's got left in Baron, or the 0 that he would get along taking the hook route to complete that objective.
To be fair, I think both runners, either they have decided to last location the Earth Crystals, I know that's only 1 key item, but that is probably either they could have forgotten or they're last locationing it. And either way, they might as well be the same thing at this point.
Well, by now we've got more than enough power to take on whatever the Zot bosses are going to be. So we've got really at this point in time, you take Zot for 1 key item check, and there's probably other places you'd rather check before doing that by now, like the tower, which has 2 key item checks, for example.
Yeah, it's definitely a numbers game at that point. So and it's not something I would disagree. I think it's more of a, if you didn't think of doing Zot earlier, like in terms of like kind of difficulty progression, then you're just gonna it just makes it fading it altogether kind of a thing. And I understand that I don't think everyone likes that trek through Zot just for 1 key item. Earlier, I think Taco Melt was looking for characters, and that would have been kind of like an ideal journey to see what those 2 characters would be. So it's one of those. If it were done earlier, would have made more sense. Now, might as well fade it until the last thing on their mind.
So Soapbox here thought for quite some time upon seeing that edge, and ultimately dismissed Palom from the party to take that edge instead, which is also an interesting decision because we saw Takamil not do that. So I guess is still possible that we're going to turn up something usable for edge here. That having been said, Palom's utility falls off quite considerably later on in the scene, unless you get him exactly up to nuke. Which, considering we've got a Crystal Sword Cecil, we've got a Kane who can hit things to some extent as well. Might single in Incantus to do Berserker strats with the Zeromus fight and not want to bother getting Palom up to the point where he can nuke things.
Yeah, nuke is a long way. I don't. It's like I don't think it loses his power. Like Palom loses power. More like once you've hit Quake, it's like. Any spell between that, I mean, he does learn all the level 3 magics, even though those are usually not what most runners are looking for. He's kind of a skill flat line. You have a bluff to boost wisdom to magical levels eventually, and it's one of those things where his ability doesn't scale anymore. It just it hit its peak until nuke, and that's not really. It's like he doesn't kind of think or anything. It's more like it doesn't get anything much different, and that's probably kind of why Helm is reasonably eatable at times. So and for Edge though, I think it's kind of risky until Haunted Steel is found. So I don't know. I would. At this point, you committed to the Palom. I would have kept the Palom, though. At least that's what I would at least think. But I can understand when Palom's kind of done, at least for him. It makes sense.
Yeah. So Soapbox is now here fighting in the Alt Gauntlet. We've got the power here to get through this Alt Gauntlet. It's going to take a little bit, but you're more than willing to sit through that if this is the last objective that you need to complete in order to get your crystal. And the common refrain in the community is check your freebies, do your objectives, or in particular, do your gating objectives, which is exactly what Soapbox is doing here, because there's, as I was saying earlier, there is a chance that this one key item, even though it's only one key item, this is an objective, and there's a chance that this one key item that we get here is the Zeromus access that we're looking for. So a couple of fights from now, we'll be seeing if Soapbox needs to be looking for more things, and maybe needs to go to Zot, to check that key item as well, because it could well be this spot gives us nothing, and that Zot had the value all along. So what happens next is going to depend greatly on what this key item is.
One notable thing: the Sandmoth, the moth, I forget the Gloom, that they can be quaked when they're summoned. One of the quirks, and one of kind of like early forms of kind of automated statuses is if a monster has the weakness to arrows, they get float status initially for the duration of the battle. When they are summoned, they do not get float status, and that means they are quakeable. So when you see like a summoned clapper, quake is fine, but when the clappers are just you start the battle with clappers, you can't quake them. So that's something to know, and it has tripped a runner or two up every so often.
Okay, so as Soapbox Chamber is finding those summoned clappers that we were talking about, Takamel is taking the opportunity to turn in both tails at once and finds the Luca key from the rat tail turn in. Now, of course, we've done Warp Glitch already, so that's irrelevant. Unless exactly D-Mist is in Sealed Cave, and has one of the means of underground access. And that would just mean that whatever the other chain along here is likely to have the other means of underground access. It's not impossible for one of the other two be our means of progression forward, but Taco is now headed back to Baron as well. We'll be taking on that Alt Gauntlet in the basement just as Soapbox Gamer is finishing it up here. Going into the last fight any moment now.
I think it's actually pretty cheeky if the basement has a D-Mist with that's gating a darkness crystal. That would be something, because having the warp glitch enabled does have kind of causes runners to get the key item, but sometimes kind of fade the boss battle. And when sometimes a seed devolves into a Demonist hunt, it's one of the things that you kind of forget that you've indirectly faded because of the warp glitch. So it's something always to keep in the back of the mind. And oh yay, we have the other half of Forge, but not the key item Soapbox is looking for. So that means we are still looking for Zeromus Axis.
So Soapbox Crystal does have that crystal now, and has exactly one key item check open to them right now, and that is the Tower of Zot. So guess where we're going from here? The silly answer there, of course, is we're going to get Forge before we get to Zot, but I don't think we need equipment for Paladin at this point. Just saying, the Forge shot might be useful though.
I think if you're doing Forge, it's because Edge needs the weapon. That's the only reason to do it, but that's out of the way. But that would be only in like on the way to the Luca to the evil wall spot check in the sealed cave. That would be the only reason to do it.
Yeah. And we have better options than that right now, like going to Zot for 2 boss spots and the key item check.
Yeah, one of the things that's kind of particular to this randomizer is that Zot 1 is always open. That's runners, especially newer runners, not aware of the quirk of the randomizer. Where Zot is already open. You can go and fight the Magus' spot anytime. No, out of the way, but sometimes you do it for effectively a Fu grind, as vanilla Fu in this randomizer. You need to fight bosses to power up Fu, and sometimes you will need every boss spot you can get, and that typically is one of them that is it is on the table, and sometimes you may get lucky.
So Soapbox Gamer made a pit stop in Fabul, apparently forgetting that he has already checked the Sheila 1 spot, and will presumably now be headed over to Zot.
Hey, Zot's a popular place. That's where the party rock is at. I mean.
Yeah, and I will point out, of course, that we have had that party rock since the very beginning of the seed. So if this turns out to be something, well, we know now that this is going to turn out to be something important, because it's the only way forward we have at this point, unless we've got a stinky Demas hiding somewhere. But I think it's more likely that whatever we get from here is going to be the progression we're looking for.
I like Curse. I like Commentator's Curse, where Demist in Sealed Cave is where it's at. That is the dream for me. You could disagree, but I'm rooting for that. Screw Zot.
That would be good, but I would also like to raise the alternative possibility that I think someone else pointed out in chat as well. Demist at package, which no one remembers to check.
You know what? It's not even package. Both runners are fading. Both have effectively faded the hook route. That's the other sneaky spot. The King Queen Evelyn spot. We know the Atlight exists. It's what is in door number 3. That is also a sneaky check that can hold Demas. So there are plenty of Demas hiding spots. So don't you worry. Demas is everywhere and nowhere at the same time.
I will, of course, point out that we had forced hook routes in our most recent tournament, specifically for the possibility of the bosses that we're hunting in those tournament flags being along the hook route, so that you don't have to go out of your way to find them. We find the D-Lunars at the Zot 1 spot here, which Cecil just swings the crystal sword at them when they die. You'll love to see that. This would have been relatively tricky to take on significantly earlier in the seed. Like, Avenger Kane is not someone that you want trying to take on the D-Lunars, for example.
Yeah, typically if you're trying to take this on early on, you'd probably use a lot of Star Veils, use the Reflect strats as part of the script. Eventually, as long as you don't punch them, they will eventually use Breath, and Breath is reflectable. Breath applies a lot of nasty statuses, and is reflectable, which is the best part. And these bosses, they don't resist anything from breath. So then they become these toads. That's at least that's what they are. Well, when you get that to happen.
Yeah, like it's normally intended, of course, that most of these bosses are immune to these status effects, but for whatever reason, if it's their own attack, it overrides their immunity to, at the very least, Toad. So you get Lunar Frogs, which is a very nice way to handle that fight in many of the stinkier spots that could appear in. So we find Palom and a Vanilla Rosa as the two characters in Zot here. At this point, having fought our way through most of the Seed with this party, we're probably not intending on taking either of them. And that's exactly what we see. So now into the boss fight. Maybe we'll get lucky and see a Demus here or something. Or maybe it'll be the key item we're looking for.
I mean, at some point it might be a bad time, and hey, it's a nasty turtle. Although, if you get a few hits off early, the power of water doesn't compel you. It's actually wave is based off of the current HP of the boss, and having but right now we've gone through so much HP that quickly. Turtle's hiding in its shell. Turtle's hiding in its shell.
Tonight we dine on microwaved turtle soup. That nuke would have been sufficient to end the fight entirely on its own.
I like
comment from chat. So it's not quite vanilla. They call this blueberry. I don't know what we would call this exactly.
Elements take a day off. That's what it is. Because they want to move. They want to move to a different spot. That's fine. No, it's an element at a spot. Val wanted vacation from her tower, and Turtle volunteered to take care of that spot. That's how it works. The elements care.
Our streamer is calling it a job rotation. I like that. Okay, so our key item from Zot is the Darkness Crystal. That is officially go mode for Soapbox Gamer. So I think we're going to see the opportunity to take a grind of some sort a little bit. I might just head directly underground here. I might head up to the moon first and do dragons. We've got the sirens, we've got the hourglasses, but now is just heading underground and we'll be cracking some eggs in order to get ready for the Zernos fight.
I think going out of the way to do this makes less sense. I mean, you have the sirens, you can, and probably bought a number of hourglasses at the same shot. The sirens were bought, so you could just go to the moon, more convenient grind on the way to the boss. I mean, this is, but I mean, some comfort level being what it is. It's fine going this way, but I'm not sure how much time it might consume more than going to the moon, do King Ryu grind. So there's those. I mean, they're both equally fast at least. So I just think that maybe doing the King Ryu grind on the way might be a little bit faster. Probably a little more dangerous though, of course.
Yeah. So I mean, the thing is that getting the dragons fight set up correctly, like, we're not gonna have any problems with that. But I do argue that it probably takes slightly longer to get through one of the dragons fight than it does to get through the eggs fight. So it's probably a little bit faster if you've got plenty of sirens to go through a stack of sirens and do some eggs, depending on exactly how much experience you're looking for. I, of course, don't have the numbers for that. I'm sure more experienced people than I am at this would be able to tell you how fast doing eggs is versus doing dragons and how out of the way you want it to be. But I can understand this play at the very least.
Yeah, the grind is there. You have at least 10 key items, so you get double XP. So the grind is half as long. So that's always a nice benefit. And I think Takamatsu is going straight to the moon. Maybe gonna do 2 King Ryu grind. There are actually other grinds on the moon, like the 3 Warlocks. That's also a popular one. Also, the one thing about the Warlock grind and even the King Ryu grinds, when you have more than one, you can take advantage of the life glitch. That is always that's a really nice thing where one one aspect of the life potion is that it cares about your vitality and multiplies it by 5, and that's how much HP you have when you get revived. Monsters don't have a vitality stat, so that value is 0, and anything multiplied by 0 is still 0. But because this game's coded well, monsters get revived but immediately die, because 0 HP monsters is a dead monster, and the game counts it as a free kill, and that's why the life glitch is really nice.
Yeah, probably the most relevant times you'll see that are especially during D machine grinds, but to a lesser extent you'll see it on the Gold Dragons grind. You'll see it on some trap chests as well if people are feeling particularly ambitious and want the early game extra boost. But it looks like Soapbox Gamer has broken enough eggs and is going to be on his way up to the moon as well. So this is going to be a straight shot down to the bottom of the moon for Soapbox Gamer. We'll see if Takuma wants to stop somewhere and pop a couple of sirens and do a couple of grind fights on the way down or not. We are going to see a moon character here, but at this point, who cares?
Unless it's like second Fu, though we can replace another mage character. That would be nice, but no edge. Moon Ninja, no such things.
Yeah, you're a little late to the party here, Edge. As much as this is a double-edged seed, we don't need either of you right now.
I think, I don't think we've actually found any decent Hands of Steel for Soapbox Gamer's Edge. But I'm also concerned. I don't remember how much in the terms of throwable items that are on hand. I mean, the only thing you could throw would be, I think, at best, the Avenger, maybe the light sword that was used earlier. I'm not sure. I forget who picked it up, but there's like a light sword, and that's maybe like a defense sword, and that's about it. And there's not much to. Usually, even if you don't have like ideal weapons for Edge, you just kind of throw your way to victory. Throw the kitchen sink at Z to contribute. But that I don't think that there wasn't much in the way of throwable darts, I think.
Yeah, we haven't found much for Edge at all, whether that be on the weapons front or on the darts front. I believe both of the Wizards did find the light sword. I know Takuma sold it on the way through Hook Route, or rather on the way to finding that Cecil and Kate Evelyn. And he sold it because his inventory was full at the time they wanted to check the Kate Evelyn shop. So I don't think that we've got much for Edge on either part. Okay, so Takuma is stopping and is popping a siren here in exactly the spot you do to do a Gold Dragon fight. So we'll be seeing at least one of these. The Hourglass comes out. And we've still got a couple of coffins left, although we're just going to let Cecil hit things here, apparently.
It's fine, although it would help if Fu contributes, but considering that you want Cecil to do all the damage and then take advantage of Life Glitch, as won't get much of an opportunity otherwise, so it's probably the safest way to get the Life Glitch going. So this is pretty safe as long as the other second King Ranger doesn't immediately die. Life Glitch, as you see, hey, revive, free XP right there.
And there we go. Free quote unquote 180,000 experience just from spending a couple of items and a couple of hits from Cecil.
I think the problem though for Taco is that Taco would actually need Hallam, because Hallam wasn't needed. He needs to actually reach level 52 to learn Nuke. Not as important to getting Forum to level actually also level 52 to learn White. So it's not as important though. But for hero, one important characteristic is that regardless of whether the hero is dead or not, XP is still collected. So normally, dead characters don't get XP, but dead heroes, they get XP. So, Porm will learn White when Palom learns Nuke. It's kind of nice, I guess.
Yeah, the twin experience taken to his extreme. But Soapbox Gamer has just walked past the spot where Taco Melt is currently grinding. and is setting up their party and saved the game, and will very shortly be setting foot into the lunar core with just a few remaining staircases to go before arriving at the Zeromus fight.
Yeah, so Soapbox Gamer does have maybe 30 seconds to a minute ahead, so that is hopefully not significant enough a difference, but we will see how much time that grind took to at least between that will be the difference. Soapbox will be ahead, and will be and kind of has the advantage with Berserkers as they don't need the same kind of levels mages do. So we'll see. But it's that time of the night. The DVZ flags. I think they're telling us everyone wants to take a nap.
Come on, this seat hasn't been that long. But yes, so as much as this is a randomizer, and we want to randomize as much as possible, we can't exactly pull Zeromus out of the boss spot here, as much as we want to see Zeromus in Atlion Cave at some point, because this fight is just unique enough that it doesn't really work anywhere else in the game. But since we still want to randomize Zeromus in some way, we instead give him the opportunity to cosplay. We have around 500 possible different appearances for Zeromus that can show up at the end of the scene, which leads us to the question we have to ask now, which is, whose butt are we going to kick tonight?
And there are always that questions like, is Butt cute? Does Butt have a hat? All the relevant questions you need to know about your infamous cosplaying Zeromus. That's why it needs to be randomized. Why have that beautiful sight that he normally looks after the crystal chip? Why he's gotta look its best in any form. That's what cosplay is for.
And as we enter into this fight against the Z flag, I do want to call out specifically that while we've got 2 racers up in the restream right now, there are in fact more racers than that on the restream today. And in fact, a couple of other racers have finished this race already. In particular, E-Ninja, who has just rated us, came in first place with a final finishing time of 1 hour, 12 minutes, and 39 seconds. Shortly behind him, Vitafro finishes in 7th place with a time of 1 hour, 15 minutes, and 34 seconds. GG's to the both of them as we see both of these Zeromus fights underway now.
Yeah, there's plenty of ways of getting Z fights done. So some checks being made or not being made early can obviously affect the times to completion. So it's always amazing when every runner is able to find their ultimate run, and especially in a randomizer to get there. And having nerfed the Big Bang, you see the damage for Soapbox Gamer is not it's not quad digit, and that's a good time. That's a good sign most of the time.
Yeah. So specifically to call out what's going on there. If you time spells correctly throughout the fight to trigger a counter nuke from Zeromus, this requires specific timing for most of the fight, but from the start of the fight to the first Big Bang, you can do this at any point in time in order to nerf the subsequent Big Bang. The counter nuke actually sets the spell power on Zeromus, so something lower than it would be when casting the Big Bang. So if you time it correctly before the spell power gets reset, if you wait until after the spell power gets set for the Big Bang, but before the Big Bang actually goes off, if you get a counter nuke in during that time, you actually reduce the damage of the subsequent Big Bang. So we saw it with the opener. We'll see if we need to do that with some of the subsequent Big Bangs in either of these fights. But we're dealing damage quickly enough that I'll be surprised if we get that far.
I don't think that's much of a problem, although I think unfortunately for Taco Melt, there's a lot of turns the twins are making, which is kind of unfortunate. So right now Taco Melt's doing kind of like a hybrid version of Foo and Friends, who usually doing things, but hey, Berserkers are contributing, but the twins not as useful. Upalin could try to reflect virus and help out, but that has decided not to not to really care so much. It's, probably just all it really need is Quake Kid to just be the reflector as the current designation to be.
Yeah,
So,
we did see Soapbox attempt to throw the crystal and attempt to nerf the Big Bang here, and succeeded. So that's not an action. The timing of doing that crystal throw or whatever action triggers the counter nig is fairly narrow. So props to Soapbox Gamer for managing to do that.
I think Soapbox Gamer is just having a more effective time. Even though Edge is not doing a significant amount of, not like it's kind of worse than Kane, but is doing the kind of the most important job of clogging the queue, making Z do less things, and that is a nice thing.
But we see the shake and the correct boom on Taco Melt's side. Taco Melt has actually pulled up the win here, has finished the race in fourth place overall, first on the restream, with a finishing time of 1 hour, 21 minutes, and 2 seconds. GG's to Taco Melt.
GG's. That's it. I mean, going straight with flex strats, like you're still using your using the berserkers to to kind of deal some damage off the top, but there is a kind of a zone where one of the aspects to reflect is not triggering the counter, which the counter causes the refill. So that in itself is saving significant amounts of time.
Yeah, but with that ding in our ears, I believe we are now joined by the first place finisher on Restream, fourth place overall in the race, Taco Melt. GG's to you.
Hey, thank you very much. Appreciate it.
So let me just lead by saying, what did you think of the seed overall? How was it having Porum be the hero for this evening?
So I actually like Porum as a hero. Her high level agility is actually not the highest. So a cursed ring really works well on her, just a cursed ring. And I was glad to be able to find one in the shop. And she's just an overall good character too. I mean, early white mage, you get early berserks, you can keep your guys up if you need to. Obviously I didn't really need that for this party, but yeah, she's a great all-around character. I like to take her whenever I can.
I mean, I sing the praises of Porum. Others would like to use a coffin on her. But you definitely know what you're doing with Porum, and certainly benefited significantly quite a bit from it. I think in the middle of the run, you were character hunting late in the game. I assume you were looking for the Cecil that you were burning, because you saw that crystal sword you picked up quite late in the Fey March in the King spot. I think that was your goal at the time.
Yeah, I was definitely character hunting there because, and I was also trying to get shops. I was like, hey, it's only a few seconds. Let's see if a Cecil's here. It would be worth it getting him up. I haven't grind yet. I haven't found sirens yet. So I was like, hey, okay, last time we look, we're going to check the moon and we'll look at a hook route anyway because of items. And we found our sirens there, but obviously we didn't need very many. But yeah, I was really happy to find the Cecil there. I probably wasted a lot of time there doing it, but I thought it was worth it.
So speaking of items, looking for shops and items, how about those Fey March bosses? Of course, the Queen spot was subjective, but having just stopped in Tavern picking up those coffins, it must have felt pretty good walking in there and seeing who the bosses there were.
Yeah, I mean, I just picked up 10 coffins. I was like, man, I so hope that I get some free bosses here, and boy, did they deliver. So I was super happy with that. I was able to clear both of them, get a key item, get an objective down, and I was able to keep going. So I kind of faded Baron Basement, though, because it's kind of annoying, and I didn't really have the party yet for it, I think, and to make it fast. So kind of whoops. And I just want to say one thing about fading Zot. That was first time I ever got punished for fading Zot. We had that, first key item, right?
It was your starting key item, yes.
Yeah, and I faded that hard, and I was like, I'm going to fade this. We're going to find either a pass or a dark crystal. I know it. Come on, Seed. We can do this. And unfortunately, dark crystal is at Zot, so...
Yeah, I was mentioning earlier, runners fading Zot. I mean, obviously understood because it's kind of a long check, but more importantly that like you probably maybe were content with your characters or something, and to some degree, like it's kind of like a one out of the way check, so it wasn't as appealing. Like you had other better options, like when you checked, lower Babel, like you did Dwarf Castle. Like there are so many other checks that you could have done before going to Zot. But it would have been probably more. It made sense if you checked Zot like immediately after doing the rest of the early overworld.
Yeah, I mean, I was thinking of it as like net gain. I mean, everything had 2 key items, so Zot has 1 and tons of cutscenes, and there could be some really crappy bosses there. So we're looking at, hey, there's 2 key items in Tower, there's 2 key items in Dwarf Castle, there's 3 key items in Feymarch, there's a free key item with Sheila 1. These are all faster than Zot. Obviously, in hindsight, 2020, but it's okay. It worked out.
Well, I think I've asked just about almost everything that I want to ask. Jeff, do you have anything else for talking about here?
Not much. I mean, do you have any other thoughts about the seed? Because that was kind of a breeze getting go mode even before having darkness or pass, the access.
Yeah, it's always scary. That's why I didn't turn everything in right away before I had a way to Z. I was like, well, I'm going to get XP on the way. It'll save me some grinding. I shouldn't be panicking. I need to find my path to the moon or a pass. And it's just one of those things that I've learned to not freak out over a quick C that could possibly happen. I mean, I had go mode, well, not go mode, but I had all the objectives, I think, at 36 minutes. I could have turned it all in if I wanted to. But it's just one of those things where you just don't want to freak out and panic over it. You got to find a path to Z as well. So.
Okay, so let's finish this off by asking, what do you hope to see next in the Pink Puff League seeds?
I've been a fan of K-Trapped lately, and I've been learning where all the trapped chests actually are. I've never really memorized those as a kid playing Final Fantasy IV, so pretty interesting to see K-Trapped pop up. I think Possum's, I forget what that is, was it Purple Moon? Has K-Trapped, and I did a couple of those. Those were pretty fun. So I'm looking forward to maybe seeing that soon.
Well, thank you for agreeing to restream tonight, and GG's once again on your finish.
Hey, thanks a lot. Hey, shout out to our great staff here and restreamers. You guys do a great job. Thank you very much, and have a good night.
Okay, and while that interview was taking place, Soapbox Gamer did finish very quickly behind Taco Bell, turning in a 5th place finish overall, second of the restream, with a final finishing time of 1 hour, 22 minutes, and 24 seconds, and we are joined by Soapbox Gamer. GG's to you.
Hello, GG's to everybody else as well.
So let me start off by asking, what did you think of that scene overall? It was like having Horum be the hero for the evening.
It wasn't more of a speed bump than I really thought it was going to be, considering the other characters I ended up getting. But with the way everything panned out, I'm sitting over like, wow, I wouldn't be surprised if people finished in an hour flat. And I thought my routing was kind of okay, and then I kind of goofed off doing a couple stupid things, but I figured, if I'm under 90 minutes on average, I'm generally happy, but it just turns out this just not under 90 minutes just wasn't fast enough.
Yeah, the speed, finding all the objectives pretty quickly. I mean, the seed was while you had probably a lot of the objectives, like being able to square away about a little past a half hour, but you still had to have find Z axis, which is probably that was obviously the thing. Even your opponent was looking for it as well at the same time.
I mean, it was the first time in a long time I'm sitting there and I'm fishing for a darkness crystal. I'm like, hi, I'm ready to go to the moon now, and nobody wants to seem to let me.
Yeah, it was so something I specifically wanted to ask you, which is sort of related to that, is so you finished up Dwarf Castle, you did the Warp Glitch, you got the Baron Key, and then immediately at that point headed over to the tower. And I have to ask what you were doing there, because was that looking for a Darkness Crystal, your Zeromus access? Because at that point you would have had access to do as many objectives as you needed, and just didn't have that Zeromus access.
It was twofold. One, I didn't want to go back up without a darkness crystal, and I was hoping that maybe the tower provided, because a lot of times I've been burned by the tower before by leaving it alone. So I had Fu in the party. I was like, well, it'll give me two extra sets of spells. Maybe I'll have Nuke in the middle, and then I can just microwave everything else and just burn through and get a crystal. But it didn't provide today, unfortunately.
Yeah, there definitely there have been scenes where you last location things you would normally skip, and this time it kind of went the other way. I think the thing that gets faded because it's kind of one off, and that's where the Darkness Crystal was. So it's one of those seeds.
Yeah, it was just unfortunate. I mean, I did waste time forgetting, because I completely forgot to set up Sheila, but luckily I wasn't penalized for it, because I was like, oh, I'll just go up Zot, and I'm like, oh, there it is. Oh, cool. I had it from the beginning of the game, had I gone up Zot early.
Well, we were saying that you'd probably have some level of difficulty getting to those dealers earlier, significantly earlier than we did, but that's beside the point. I think I've covered everything that I wanted to cover, Deathlike, with maybe one last thing on my part, but did you have anything else you wanted to ask first?
No, I think there's only one question. So late in the seed, you picked up an edge. Oh, and Yeeted Palom picked up an edge, if I'm not mistaken. You made your party more berserker heavy, even despite the fact that you didn't have too many. You didn't have much in the way of Hanzo Steel or kind of darts. So, what was the thinking behind that?
I'm just more comfortable with a ninja, and at that point, I got it early enough that I decided to pivot. I was like, I have enough, and I'm sitting there, I have enough sirens in my pocket that I just found randomly, that if I get to a point where I find a darkness crystal, I can burn all 6 of them and still be good to go. In hindsight, yeah, I might have, had I kept that Palm a little longer, I probably would have just kept it the way it was. Frankly, it was one way or the other, but I kind of stuck to what I knew better, and yeah, pretty sure the Palm might have been a little bit faster, but I'll probably have to go through and just see how I feel about it the next time I run something similar.
All right. So the last thing that I wanted to ask is, what are you hoping to see next from Flags for the Pink Puff League?
Albeit I missed the last couple of weeks. I don't have an actual preference, to be quite honest. I mean, we're about halfway to 3/4 through, so I'm guessing it'll probably be like something tournament flags or something like that gets a little excessive. I mean, this is my first foray into Sea Hero, one of my early forays into Sea Hero, because I should get more experience this way, but I don't mind another Sea Hero race to get used to it some more. But tournament flags would be fine with me.
All right. With that, any last thoughts you'd like to share with us before we send you on your way?
No, GG's to everybody else. I mean, total Jet Seed. I guess everyone had stuff to do this evening, which, is hilarious to me, but, it's fun. But as always, I appreciate being on Restream, and, I appreciate all the effort everybody puts into these things and, these broadcasts and all the groups and everything else. So figure I'd give you all some love, and GG's to everybody on the race today.
GG's to you as well, and thank you once again for agreeing to be on the Restream tonight. Have a good evening to you.
Thanks. Anytime, guys. Take care.
Okay, and while that brings us to the end of our broadcast for tonight, we are certainly not done with Free Enterprise in general. We haven't seen the Pink Puffs on stream yet, dropping adamant armor, but that's beside the point. Tomorrow evening on Free Enterprise 2, our secondary channel, will be the Friday night community race at 10 p.m. Eastern, featuring the last round of a throwback to the World Series of Free Enterprise Forge present Flag Set, one of the very first objective modes that was added to the game. And on Saturday at 3 p.m. Eastern, we'll be having the next instance of the Baron Heroes Journey Community Club. I don't immediately remember who we're featuring this time around, but I can find out. It is Edward this time around. So with that, we're also not done for tonight. Deathlike, where are we headed tonight?
We are raiding the Tara, running a free enterprise practice seat for the Frost Fatales run. So that'll be fun. So yeah, that's that. And yeah, hope everyone has a good night and see you all next week. Just don't spoil this race.
Yeah, thanks for watching, everyone. We'll see you next time.